now for our feature presentation.
May I introduce to you Lancashire Hot.
Put your hands together for the one and only.
Worry. Just a couple of Northern monkeys. Hurry, cockers.
Hello, Hot Podders, and welcome back to the next episode of the Lancashire Hot Pod. I am joined, as ever, I've said trusted partner before, BFF, good friend, podcast partner.
We'll get there.
We'll get there in the end. My better half, Gav Scott. How you doing, Gav?
I'm all good, you?
I'm all right. Have you recovered from the 360 experience from the last podcast?
Bit strange that, wasn't it? We got some good feedback from it, though.
We did. We hit over almost 500 views on the video. Although the main comment seemed to be, why have I got a bed in the spare room?
Yeah.
And also somebody was admiring my curtains.
Well, that was just for the sound, so it didn't echo. It was just bulking the room up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But anyway, the podcast, the home of the Lancashire Hot Pod, has had a bit of a lick of paint, haven't we? We've
Bit of a makeover.
We've had a bit of a makeover, yeah. But we're not using the 360 camera tonight. We thought we'd just let you listen to us rather than watch us. So have you recovered?
Half, yeah. Just still feeling a bit ropey this morning.
And this is because you went to the Darwin Food and Drink Festival.
Food festival, yeah. That was a good turnout, good atmosphere, really good. Enjoyed it.
Or just the drink festival for you?
Oh, the drink came after I was driving during the festival. So.
Oh, right, okay. Was there any good foods on offer?
The Greek was my favourite. The kebabs with the Greek salads and the feta cheeses and all that rigmarole. And there were cheese stalls as well.
There was a rigmarole. What was in that?
I don't know, it's Greek.
Wicked. Well, listen, we're back with a vengeance, and tonight we've got an absolutely great episode lined up because we are joined by two very lovely ladies. So let us introduce Janet Pierce, and I am going to get this right, Jane Edivine. Is that right?
That's right.
Yay! So, Janet, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Wicked. Well, listen, the reason why we've got you on the podcast this evening is to talk about what you do and obviously a passion of yours. So do you want to just introduce yourself perhaps and, a little bit of background you do and obviously a passion of yours. So do you want to just introduce yourself perhaps and, a little bit of background as to what you do and what we're going to be talking about tonight?
Yeah, so I'm Janet. I'm from Keep Darwin Tidy, which really started as a Facebook group, I think, sort of. It goes back quite a while now, but I ended up, another story for another day, but I ended up finishing work and was at home, smoking too much, eating too much.
We've all been there.
Yeah, sad state, and decided that I would get a puppy. I wasn't able to work, and a puppy seemed like a good idea. So Roscoe, the black lab, came into my life, and I started to take him out for walks and noticed how much glass there was. So we all know the litter, the glass, and how bad it was. He's cut his pads a couple of times now, I think 4 glass there is. So I thought, right, I'm going to take some photos. So I put them on Facebook, and then I thought, they look a bit silly just on my Facebook. So I thought I'll start a proper page. So I thought, what can I call it? So Keep Britain Tidy. So I thought, Keep Darwin Tidy. That was original. So that was it. Keep Darwin Tidy started. Facebook started with my friends and my friends' friends. 80 people, I think. And we're now at 2,000 Facebook members.
And are they all in Darwin, or is some of them spread out because they're interested, or
they're all BBC? Well, the Facebook members, I think now we've got some from like abroad because they just follow the idea. They like to see the other towns in and I think we've got some from America, that do have connections with Darwin. Some of them, they've moved away, so. And I think we've got some from America, that do have connections with Darwin. Some of them, they've moved away. So, yeah, the Facebook group is sort of spread far and wide. But I would say 85% of them are from Darwin. And then we've also got, that we'll probably go into later on. So I'll probably let Jane introduce herself and tell us how Jane got started.
Wicked.
Okay, similar situation, to be honest. I actually lived in London for 30 years, in South London, in Brixton, And I came back to Bury 3.5 years ago, and I've got a dog, and I was out walking with my dog and was seeing just phenomenal amounts of, am I allowed to swear?
Go for it.
Sure,
Just a lot of crap everywhere.
Oh, I thought you were going to go something stronger.
And I'd started seeing litter picking groups around the area. Ramsbottom had started, a lady called Jackie Griffiths had started one in Ramsbottom. And Keep Bury Clean was actually started by another lady called Rochelle. And I joined that group. And then I started my own, which was Tottington Litter Pickers, because that's the village I actually live in.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of people responding very, very quickly and coming along, and we organised group picks. And then we've got a lot of people who just go out and do their own thing on dog walks and taking the kids to school. And when Rochelle left the area, Keep Bury Clean was left floating doing nothing. And I thought, well, this is a much bigger job than Tottington, because Bury is, a much bigger place.
Yeah, of course.
So what we've been aiming to do in Bury, rather than having lots of group litter picks, what we try and do is encourage individuals to start there. We go along and we get some of our die-hard volunteers to go in, clean an area up, and then get people to then adopt it, so to speak. So they keep on top of it.
Yeah.
We'll go in with a group of 20 people, tidy somewhere up, and then somebody local will say, right, that's my job now.
That's my patch.
That's my patch. Yeah, exactly. And it's worked really well. I mean, I don't know if you know Bury very well, but we've got a group in Ratcliffe.
I used to live in Bury.
Did you? So we've got a group in Ratcliffe now. We've got a group up in Walmsley. We've got a group down Elton on Bury and Bolton Road. Obviously, Tottington is my patch. But it's just become a bit of an obsession now. I can't go out.
Bit of a monster.
It is a bit of a monster, isn't it? You can't go out without seeing it.
Yeah.
And if you don't take your litter picker and a bag with you, what you find you're doing is you're making mental notes of everything you've seen.
Yeah.
So the next time you go, you know where you're going. You know exactly where you're going to find mental notes of everything you've seen.
Yeah.
So the next time you go, you know where you're going. You know exactly where you're going to find, a pile of rubbish. And it's frustrating because you're going, I've litter picking an area called the Kirklees Nature Trail, and I'm going there almost daily, and I'm picking stuff up from the same places that I've been 2 days before.
Yeah, that's frustrating
And
as
it's
hell, isn't it?
really
Well,
frustrating.
this is part of the problem, isn't it? You think, right, well, if I clean an area up, it might stay clean for a bit, but then you go back the day after or 2 days later, and it's exactly the same, which is really frustrating.
Yeah.
And
And
also, you've also got, sadly, that we have, I think in Darwin now, although we're a borough Blackburn with Darwin, Keep Darwin Tidy started first, and then Keep Blackburn Tidy started about 3-4 months after. But, so what that meant was that we stay in Darwin, really, unlike Jane, who's sort of 150 registered volunteers. So they've put their name to a piece of paper for the council, and they've got a free litter kit off the council, which I think...
I'm one of those.
I'm also one of those.
Well, we have that in Bury as well, though. They call it the street care pledge, but unfortunately,
Yeah, yours is different.
it doesn't work. It's people sign up to this Bury Council street care pledge, go online, they get their email saying, yeah, you've signed up, you're going to keep your street clean, and then they don't get anything. They don't get the kit. So I'm driving halfway around the borough, dropping kit off to people that haven't received them.
And where do you get that kit from?
Well, I get
Jane?
it, but this is what's hilarious. I get it from the council. But I go and get it in bulk. I go and get 20, 30 litter pickers.
And then you do
And
the
then I
legwork.
dish
do the
them out
drops.
because the council are not doing it.
I must admit, our council are great. They do give the free kits. They have. They've just employed somebody now whose job it is to get those litter kits to the volunteers, and they have them within a week, which is incredible,
brilliant.
really. Yeah, because you want to get it to them while they've got that
Oh, they've still got it in the mind.
passion
Yeah.
for it. So, like I said, 450 in Darwin is great. Now, I'm not naive to think that all those people are as passionate as me and Jane. They're not, and that is a frustrating part. You've got us at the top of the triangle. We were deadly passionate, see every piece of litter, and then you've got the ones at the bottom who got the free litter kit because it was a free litter kit.
It comes with tea bags.
And it comes with tea bags, and they might need it one day because there was a wipe in the backyard a couple of weeks ago. And it's like, yeah. And you know the litter kit's never going to come out again. And that is frustrating, but that's just the downside of it. And that's a shame for Jane because, like she said, the council don't sound as responsive despite us being how many miles away?
Do you think that's just under-resourced? Do you think they haven't got the staff in the right place? Procedural?
I don't think any council has enough money these days, do they? Let's
That's
face
a fair point, yeah.
But I do think there's a procedural issue with the street care pledge in Bury, and I've raised it with them on a few occasions, and they're a little bit in denial that there's an issue.
Right. So you must mention it a lot.
Oh, we have regular meetings, and I've had quite a heated email exchange with the person responsible at the council who still denies there's an issue. But then I've provided her with a list of people who've signed up and never got anything. I've also provided her with a list of people that have signed up and received 3 sets of litter picking kits.
And that's
and then they say, "Oh no, there's nothing wrong. It's all working fine." So I've given up on that one. I just now take the kits off the council and go and dish them out myself. And if those people, "Oh no, there's nothing wrong. It's all working fine." So I've given up on that one. I just now take the kits off the council and go and dish them out myself. And if those people then receive their litter kit through the council, they let me know, and I can go and pick up the stuff I've left, and I can pass it on to somebody else. But I've got a garage full of equipment, and I've got a car full, and I never go anywhere without my gear these days. It's just always there.
And sadly, I think that's the problem. Without volunteers of any degree doing the job, the council just wouldn't do it. They just would not pay attention to the areas that we have to do. They wouldn't, although our council, Blackburn with Darwen, had the Your Call initiative in place, I don't think it was sort of pushed enough. So Keep Darwen Tidy were able, when they came in, to just slide enough. So Keep Darwen Tidy were able, when they came in, to just slide in to that initiative and just make it bigger, as opposed to starting something, which is what Jane would need to do. So, I mean, our litter pickers, 450, like I was saying, they're not all out. And it's a shame because you end up having 5 or 10 of you that are really passionate who end up doing a lot of the donkey work. And that makes it a lot frustrating.
Well, if there's any consolidation, it's not. That happens to so many groups, whether it's online or face to face. You always get your power user. So obviously, Jane and Janet, you are the power users, and then you get your, say, let's take a group of 100. So you'll get 1 power user, and then you'll get, for every 100, you'll probably have 9 other active contributors and active people in your group, or just lurkers, people that'll just be in the group to see what's going on, to join in the conversation, but actually they're probably less active. So don't worry, it's not your group in particular.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it happens in all groups, and I've now become aware of so many litter picking groups across the country. I mean, there is another group on Facebook, which is UK litter picking groups. And there's something like 800 or 900 groups registered within UK litter picking groups, and they're all over. I mean, they're beach cleaners. They're all over the country. They're like you said, there's the ARCs as well, and it has become a bit of a phenomenon in that so many people do care. It's just a shame that so many people don't care.
That's why we're in this problem in the first place, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't have nearly as many members in my Facebook group. I think there's 450 in the Bury group, and there's only a couple of hundred in Tottington, but then Tottington's quite small. And there's 450 in the Bury group, and there's only a couple of hundred in Tottington, but then Tottington's quite small. And some of them overlap. And we do have, 10 or 12 people who are posting daily, or, 2 or 3 times a week, done these 3 bags, done those 4 bags, just did a bag on my dog walk today type of thing. And there's a lot of lurkers, and there's a lot of people who like to be in the group because they like to be seen to be doing something, even though they're
part of
not.
the community.
Yeah.
Or a lot of them like to think that they're doing bits, or they like to think they'd want to do a bit, but when it comes to it, they can't be asked.
But I don't mind
Got too
if
much on.
people don't do if people only go out and do one bag a week, because it's one bag a week off the street, isn't it? It's one bag a week gone, rather than
I am a very much a half glass full. So I do think we have to remember that although I say those litter pickers are never used, I know for a fact there are streets I appear on, and I know
quite a few times Gordon Village,
Yeah.
but there's somebody else must be doing it as well, because there's hardly anything on it ever.
exactly.
So-
So somebody's just nipping out and maybe picking up a wipe or whatever. So it is happening, but we don't see it. So sometimes we make a judgment. So I think overall in Darwin we are getting better. People are slowly joining the bandwagon. It's probably the same in Bury, but we must get across how much it is a massive problem.
Yeah.
I don't think we can stress that enough. That, as Jane said just earlier, it doesn't matter if you go out on Monday to a street. You can go back Tuesday and there'll be something there of some degree, whether it's cans and a takeaway or wipes, dog poop and a nappy that's been thrown there, takeaway, or wipes, dog poop and a nappy that's been thrown there, or abuse of a bin. All these things are happening on a daily basis, and I don't think that's Darwin. Is that the same with you, Jane?
Well, it is. I mean, it's the same everywhere. And like I say, when you look at the UK litter picking group, that it's everywhere in the country.
Yeah.
It's not just our towns.
I don't think it's just our country either. I think
no,
it's a
oh god, no, I'm
global problem, isn't
globally,
it?
yeah, globally. I mean,
But there's another side to it. There's a lot of people that are in the mindset where we pay council tax. Why should we go cleaning up? Why should we be doing council's jobs? And it's like, well, the council didn't drop the litter. There's...
Well, I get that a lot. And my argument is, it's not the council's job to pick up other people's crap. The council are there to empty bins. The council are there to do something with that rubbish, but they're not there to pick somebody else's rubbish up. And I get a lot of, oh, well, there's no bin in that area. So if there's no bin, take it home. Or find another bin. Or, but putting piles of dog poo bags on top of an already full bin.
That's one of my gripes. I'm taking dogs for a walk, and people just hang them on trees and stuff and fences. What is the point?
There's a ginnel where my mother lives. There's a ginnel that goes on to what is known as the lines. It's where the old railway line used to be, and it runs all the way from Bury into Greenmount. And there's a little ginnel. It must be 20 yards long to get from the street onto the lines. And yesterday I picked 6 dog poo bags up from that one ginnel, because it's where people walk off, because they've took the dogs down the line, they took them down the Kirklees, down the nature reserve, they've all had a run around, they pick the dog poo up, and then there's no bin there, so they drop it in the ginnel.
That there should be bins on every street corner. God forbid you've got to walk more than 10 metres with a bag or a packet of crisps. And I think that's our youth think that
But there are places in my local park, like proper park as opposed to the nature reserve, has got a bin on every corner. Right, there's a bin. In fact, there's a bin on every corner, and then there's 3 poo bins as well as the regular bin. And yet I still pick up rubbish in that park, and I still pick up poo bags in that park. You don't have to walk more than 50 metres to a bin, and yet there is still rubbish on the park. Saturday morning we went down there. Kids play football on that park. 3 water bottles left on the park after the football match. Why is the football club not taking responsibility for making sure the kids clean up after themselves?
The parents.
The football club not taking responsibility for making sure the kids clean up after themselves?
The parents.
The parents.
And so we've had this debate. So obviously we had Wayne Dixon on.
Yeah.
Obviously Wayne's doing his coastal walk, his
He's got bit by a
mosquito, so
today.
Oh, you're joking? Oh my
His
God,
eyes all
seriously?
swollen
Oh
up.
dear.
That's-
Whereabouts is he in the country?
That's Wayne and Coda, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
They're on the south coast, aren't they? At
He's
the
on
moment?
his way
Well,
to.
you know, South Bloody Coast.
He's not far from the. He's coming in along the Thames. He's going to London to hand in a petition. So he's been on the Thames for quite a while.
Yeah.
So hopefully he'll hand his petition in. I think he's a bit worried about. He quite likes it quite quiet, and you know.
Don't like city in a city life, does he?
Taking Coda into the middle of London, he's not looking forward to it.
To get on one knee and provide the Queen with this petition. He was telling us as well around, you know, he would clean the entire area and then next minute you go back the day after and it's there. And it begs the question, is it the same people? Is it different people? But fundamentally, and I'm going to swear now, it's just people give less of a shit about what they do with their own rubbish, and it's about accountability.
I really don't think they think about it. I just don't think
they're just not bothered.
That thought actually passes their mind.
Yeah, they're not bothered.
Because we've started, I don't know whether Bury do it, but we call them baggy bins. So the council have refused now to give us any more bins. They haven't got the money for them. They're not going to put new bins in, and
which is kind of understandable, because if you put new bins out, then bins have got to be emptied on a daily or a weekly.
I don't agree with just putting more bins.
No,
I don't agree with just put. There are bins. There are 200 bins in my village.
It'll just make
and there is still rubbish. So extra bins isn't the answer.
It's not.
It's teaching people to use the bins that the answer.
It's not.
It's teaching people to use the bins that we have. That is.
But we have put baggy in areas where we've had problems with, like outside a particular company, lots of litter. We've decided to put one of our red bags up, so that's why we call them baggy bins. So we have to manage them. The volunteers have to manage them. The council will have no management towards it at all. We have to get it to a bin somehow. So I'm thinking of two areas really, next to each other. Stinky Alley, we call it. Catchy, yeah. A lot of footfall for the school. And then just further down is the opening to the company. And that's where they go out and have the fags and the crisps and the brews, Costa brews. So they've worked really successfully. So as long as and that's where they go out and have the fags and the crisps and the brews, Costa brews. So they've worked really successfully. So as long as the bin is at the end of their arm, they're willing to do it. So that sort of shoots my idea that they don't think about it, because they must do the fact that they've thought that, there's a bin there at the end of the arm.
It's just laziness. If there's a bin there, I'll put it in. If there isn't, it'll go on the floor.
Yeah, that's
laziness,
exactly how it is. So we have baggy bins which do work. We've got quite a few now in Darwin, probably 10. Or various places. We've got one in a rural area. And when we first started up Cranberry, Julie went litter picking and there was 27. She picked up 27 poops and literally put the bags next to each other and decided to put up a baggy bin. She's got a laminate in the red bag so it doesn't smell like a spray. And you want to see it. She changes it 3 times a week. And it's in a rural, but it just shows how much or how many people walk past it. So the baggy bins work for us. I don't know if you do anything like that, Jane.
We haven't. We have debated it. There's a particular area where the kids ride their mountain bikes, and we always find crisp packets. I wish I had shares in Lucasade, because the number of Lucasade bottles I pick up is ridiculous. But it's always the same spot, and it's, we go there 2-3 times a week. And we debated whether to put a bin up or a bag up in a tree or whatever, and we decided against it. And then a few weeks ago, as I was walking down there, someone had hung a big green bag from a tree. In fact, 2 big green bags from a tree. And I thought, bag from a tree. In fact, 2 big green bags from a tree. And I thought, okay, I don't know where that's come from. It's not one of ours. It's not one of our members. So let's see what happens. And the next day I walked past, and sure enough, this bag was half full. And I'm thinking, all right, so it's working, people are walking past and they're putting the rubbish in there. The following day, somebody had taken it off the tree and emptied the entire contents all over the bike track. And I posted on my local Facebook sort of what's on site, and I got the usual, oh, it could have been foxes, it could have been this, it could have been that. And it's like, yeah, because a fox is going to climb up a tree, unhook this bag, empty the contents all over the floor, but leave the bag completely intact.
Yeah.
They do that, you know, in Bury. They do that.
Very clever foxes.
That's why they're called sly foxes.
But I mean, we do have wildlife where we are, and if the bag, I had a bag. I've only ever had it happen once, where someone had been and cleaned up around the lodge, and the bag had been split open in the night, and I had to go and rebag it, and it was because there were chicken bones in the bag because there was leftover KFC remnants, you know. Our nearest KFC is 4 miles away, so
other chicken shops are available.
But someone has driven.
They want advertising, they can pay us.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
I'm joking.
The tosses you're on about now.
But that's it, and you know, and so that was the only time when something has been ripped open. It's because there was food in the bag.
So do you not do the bins anymore then?
So I don't. Well, I didn't do the bags in the first place. What I had to do then, I had to spend 25 minutes picking up every bit of litter that had been tipped out of this green bag. And bagging it up in one of our bags.
But at least you weren't walking a mile to pick it up.
Well, there is that. It was all in one pile.
Well, still, I mean, you know, you don't, wildlife blaming, we spell it out, it was probably either 1 or 2 or a group of children who don't give a crap, have no respect, and just thought it was good fun because somebody else now has to come back and pick it all up, and they probably thought it was funny and a joke, and they did it and then went off without giving it a second thought.
And after I'd cleaned it up, I then went on my dog walk, and I did another bag while I was walking, and I went back to pick up the bag that I filled up to take it to where I know that our local council chap can pick it up from, because he can't get his van down into the woods and whatever. And as I got back, there's a bunch of lads, and they're all riding their mountain bikes around, and already within the hour, there's bottles and crisp packets, and so of course I had a word. Come on, lads! I said, I've just spent 20 minutes clearing all this rubbish up, and now what's up? Nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with us. Well, okay, where's it come from? Given that that's your bags on the floor there, that's your backpacks, and there's your empty crisp packets. Why on earth didn't you just put them? Oh, you're a bag lady, and you know.
And the thing for the volunteer groups is it's litter picking groups, but also what we have to tackle is fly tipping and dog fouling. So you've got dog fouling, litter picking, and fly tipping,
and
all three.
Well, there's one more: is contaminated bins. That don't get collected by the council because people can't be bothered to put the right thing in the right bin. Now, I know that in Darwin you have different coloured bins from what we have in Bury.
As in North Towns.
I think that there should be a government initiative that says every council in the country should have the same coloured bins.
Is that not the case?
No, it's not.
I just assumed that there were.
No.
Every county's got different setup.
Our general waste bins are grey or black.
No, whereas ours are recycled.
Right.
Recycling ones.
Our blue bin is recycling. Our green bin is for cardboard and paper. And then our brown bin is for food waste and garden waste. So that's totally different from what you have up here. If every county in the country had the same colour bins, people travelling from different parts of the country would then know which bin they're supposed to...
they'd understand what goes on, they know the rules, wouldn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
And people probably thinking, well, what's contaminated bins got to do with picking up a few bits of litter? Well, it's the knock-on effect of people's choices. Things like people put a black bag out thinking that the bin men are just going to pick their bag and throw their bag in the wagon because they're their favourites. Well, that doesn't happen. Black bags do not go in bin wagons when they're not in bins.
And is that's not a choice? That's a directive to say you shouldn't. Is that right, or is it a choice?
All your black bags go in your bin.
Yes, choice.
All your black bags go in your bin.
Yes, but if your bin's full,
if your bin's full, then you take it to the recycle centre.
Yes, okay.
It should not go next to your. It is fly tipping. Really?
If you put a bag of rubbish on the floor, whether it's on your front door, your back door, and your back alley, it's fly tipping.
So,
And what we
And
do,
it's illegal.
we simply go, if we've got more rubbish than we've got than it fits in our bin, knock on next door. Is your bin full? Can I chuck this bag in your bin?
and you can have, in Darwin, you can have 2 grey bins and you can have larger burgundy bins. And I mean, you could talk about this for hours, but the problem for us as litter pickers and group leaders as such is that bin bag then gets ripped open by a fox, that fox that hangs off the tree in Bury. And that fox then, all them bits with the wind and the rain, because it's only light plastic, industrial town is, that we're now full of back alleys where people can just leave their rubbish and not be seen. So that's why litter pickers end up having to put up with contaminated bins and bags because of the knock-on effect, really.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And that is a massive issue. I think it's probably the same for you, Jane.
Oh yeah, and litter begets litter. If you walk down a back alley and there are bins that are overflowing and you know they're not being emptied because they've got the wrong stuff in, the council just leave them, they just ignore them. And then somebody walks down there with their, fast food takeaway, whatever.
Dog poop bag.
Oh, this place is a shit tip, so who cares?
Doesn't make a difference.
It's already a shit tip, so, whereas we know from experience that if you tidy somewhere up, there are places, but as we've already said, that you tidy up and you go back and there's still rubbish there, but they're not as bad as there are places, but as we've already said, that you tidy up and you go back and there's still rubbish there, but they're not as bad as they were. And if you tidy a place up and then you make it pretty, I find that actually works. So if you clean a place up and then you get some planting done, or you get whatever, whether it be the rangers come along and build something, or it tends to keep things a bit tidy. You're
talking about pride there,
Yes.
aren't you? Pride in the place that you live, pride in your community, pride of walking down your street and it doesn't look like an absolute mess.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's, as always, it is the minority who spoil it for the majority.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you get to that tipping point where actually the minority just keep doing it so much and so often, the majority just go, well, actually, it is an exercise in futility. What's the point?
And it is hard to keep volunteers with you, really, because, I don't know why we keep doing it, but it's hard to keep these. Her husband goes to football, so she comes to the litter pick on a Saturday. It's hard to keep those people passionate because it's day in, day out. It's the same shit all the time, same shit, different place. And we get just as frustrated, but the day after we wake up and think, right, glass half full, let's try again. Sadly, your volunteers don't often think like that. And you find that you'll see some for 3-4 weeks and then they won't come anymore. And it's nothing you did. It's not personal. It's just that it's soul destroying. It is soul destroying to see the amount of shit that people are willing to just leave for other people to live with.
Picking shit up after people who don't give a shit.
I mean, I had the exact conversation yesterday with somebody who said, we shouldn't have to keep doing this. And we shouldn't. But can you if it would look like if we didn't?
Yeah.
If we didn't do it, what would it look like? And you're right about what you said a bit earlier on about, what do people think actually happens to the rubbish? When they've parked their car in a nature reserve and they've eaten their McDonald's
and they've thrown it out.
And when they go down there 2 days later, what do they think has happened to it?
It's magic fairies.
Well, that's it. I'm the magic fairy.
It's the same magic fairies that do the washing up for them, and they're washing the clothes for them, make the bed for them.
Tossers are a real problem. Yeah. People who just throw takeaways out of windows. The amount of takeaway stuff that we pick up is phenomenal. It is the majority of our pickups from whichever preferred takeaway you'd like. Polystyrene is
so this brings in another debate
off the
then,
chart.
I used to work in a restaurant, and when I was managing a restaurant, I looked into it, but unfortunately the restaurant I was working in was shutting down because it just wasn't working. But we looked into it, and it was going to we were going to start getting the the recyclable boxes. But they are a little bit more expensive, but they're not that much expensive.
That's usually the reason they use.
Yeah, but
for
they're not that much
using
more, expensive, isn't it?
I think that's. If you think about the cardboard, think about all the. So if you go to KFC, other chicken shops are available. You get a box meal. You get it in a big box. If you go to other,
if you're rich, you get a bucket.
No, I'm all about the box meal and zingers. However, I think more and more companies, have a. I don't know what the word that I'm looking for, but they have an obligation almost.
It's slowly happening. It is slowly.
I have heard about, obviously, I don't know what the word that I'm looking for, but they have an obligation almost.
It's slowly happening. It is slowly.
I have heard about, obviously, we've got a lot of things going on about plastic bottles, and we might talk about
Unilever
Greta.
announced.
Gav's got an opinion. But yeah, absolutely.
Unilever announced today that, but you see, it's all right throwing the shade at people like Unilever, big companies like that. But as he was saying in his interview today, they're changing a lot of their plastics to black recyclable plastics. But because it's not a national recycling rule, and we all have different rules at different councils, that means that black plastic that is recyclable will go to 418 councils within England, and how many are going to recycle it? Because the council all have different rules. So it's okay saying, well, the companies aren't helping, but there's also the councils that aren't helping. We've got to try and do more to recycle these products. Iceland are doing it as well. I think Iceland are going, is it plastic free? Plastic free by 21, I think. Or they're changing a lot of the packaging anyway.
I know there was palm oil.
Palm oil they're not using now, are they? So they're doing really well. But this is the problem that you have, is that when somebody does something right, there'll be somebody who isn't doing it right enough, and it cocks the system up. And that's usually what happens.
And I suppose even irrelevant of what material it's made out of, it's still something physical that people will have in their hand, and they will choose to throw it on the floor rather than put it in the bin.
But
so it might be recycling,
it
but it
doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's gotten rid of. Yes, I know there's arguments against waste to energy, whichever I was getting mixed up, energy to waste. I know there's things about emissions and stuff, but if your polystyrene takeaway is disposed of and does not cause a problem to either your neighbour or your council or whoever, then that's fine. Use polystyrene takeaway dishes. It's the fact that people don't get rid of the stuff the right way that we end up with it going to landfill when it shouldn't. Not going to, well, we haven't got enough energy to waste places. Hopefully we'll get one in Darwin soon. So it all comes back to, if you get rid of your rubbish the right way, then we wouldn't have a problem. But that doesn't happen, does it? And it's a shame that you've got two towns here. You've got Darwin and Bury, not that far apart, but are dealing with the same problem. And it's a shame that you've got two towns here. You've got Darwin and Bury, not that far apart, but are dealing with the same problems. Two separate councils, same problems. So why?
I'm sure if we had someone from Burnley, from Blackburn, from Accrington, Clitheroe, we'd all be talking about the same thing. It's not just a Lancashire thing either.
Well, obviously, this is why Wayne's doing what he's doing, isn't it?
Yeah. But there's two litter picking groups in Bolton. There's the North Bolton litter pickers of North.
I think there's four.
Is there four?
Yeah, I think so.
But they're all over, and we've got two or three problems here. We've got people who chuck litter on the floor. We've got people who don't dispose of their recyclables properly. You've got, like you say, you've got bins. You've got education. Really, it's education that this is not okay. Where I am, we have the Irwell. The Irwell has been...
Is that a river?
It was in the past. The Tesco up in Haslington got done for millions for allowing petrol to flow into directly into the river. But our little brooks, the Kirklees Brook, the back of my house, runs into the Irwell. So when people are just dropping their litter in, just walking along the nature reserve, it's going to end up in the water. It's going to end up in the sea eventually if I don't pick it up, if I don't fish it out. I've got a 6-foot litter picker that I go down to the water with and drag things out of the water. I mean, there's 2 black bags at the side of the stream at the moment. I can't get to them. Someone's just lobbed them over a fence. But because the stream's really high, I can't walk through the stream and I can't get over the fence from the other side. So I just keep watching these 2 bags getting closer and closer to the stream. And we've done this before. Me and my husband went last year and fished 2 bags out of that stream. And there were cat food. Why are you throwing your bags over a fence practically into a stream?
Out of sight, out of mind type of thing, isn't it? It's just...
There's no consequences for these people, is there? They're just not bothered about what's going to happen to the stuff.
But we're filling the oceans with rubbish. And
they'll be sat there in their living rooms going, "Oh, what a shame, this is horrible, this is a right mess." Fling.
Yeah.
That's what they'll be doing, though.
Yeah.
So it's like, as a group, like Jane's group sounds similar, because I'd never met Jane up until tonight. So it's like we met just now before the podcast. But it sounds like the groups are very similar, and obviously Jane and I sound very, same passionate people. But yeah, we shouldn't be litter picking. But what Keep Darwin Tidy have now done is sort of taken on the mantle of trying to educate as well. And this is his job, to be educating Darwin about litter. I mean, we've started going to the brownies. Wayne started this when he was home, because I asked him, I said, would you come and have a look in the schools and do talks? And he said, yeah. So we went in 75% of our schools and did talks. Just a one-off talk, took Coda in, and, they were really well received. They were great.
My little lad went to St Edward's when this happened, and that's how I discovered Wayne. My little lad told me about it, and he was telling me all sorts about what Wayne had said, and he couldn't get over how beautiful Coda were. And
yeah, because Wayne does the slant of, because it's children, and the majority of it is primary junior, he does the wildlife, the effect on wildlife of the litter. And we've all seen those pictures that pop up with the like the plastic bags,
things over
Well, it talks on wildlife of the litter. And we've all seen those pictures that pop up with the like the plastic bags,
things over
Well, it talks about the 4 Ps as well, or it was a 3 Ps, and then another kid said there was a 4 P. So basically, he goes to the kids and say the only thing you should put down your toilet are the 4 Ps. So I'll get this wrong, but it was something like poo, pee, and something, and paper, toilet paper, yeah. And then another kid went, "No, Wayne, there's another P." And he's like, "Yeah, what do you want? Puke." So there you have it.
He's right, isn't
Ps.
Poo, pee, paper, and puke. Anything else shouldn't go down the toilets. Because if you remember, when I think it was in London, what they called it's fatbergs, or there was something where all the wipes and all the crap that had been put down people's toilets, just again, out of sight, out of mind. However, it's not. It goes into the sewers. It amalgamates. It grows.
It was about this in the 80s.
But it's the same with the drains in the street. The number of people I know who drop their cigarette butts into the drains. My husband used to do it all the time, and I was like, babe, you can't do that.
And they don't go down; they just stay there, floating about, or they just stick to the side of the
or they end up.
They complain when it gets really heavy rain and they start overflowing.
Well, council haven't cleaned that great. Well,
no, is it any wonder?
But the council get blamed for so much. The Bury Council are actually really, really supportive of what we do. They're extremely grateful, as they would be,
as they should be.
They provide us with the bags. They provide us with the equipment. My local area guy, I have him on speed dial. So when I've done a litter pick and I've got more than a couple of bags, because we have an agreement, we just do a bag, we can leave it by a bin, and then they'll just come and get it. If we do more than 3 bags, we have to let him know where it is. But my guy is actually in my litter picking group. So when people put a post up saying,
sees it.
Yeah, he sees it straight away.
Okay.
And he's like, right, okay, where is this? And then we can tell
It
him.
works well, doesn't it?
And he's there the next day
Yeah.
taking it all away. And the guy, head of waste management at the council, I have his number as well. So if we're doing a big litter pit where we're talking 20, 30 bags and, we're talking road signs and wheels and God knows what else. It's just, this is where it's at. Off you go. And he goes and gets it within 24 hours, or sends a team down to pick it up within. They're brilliant, our council, in a lot of ways. But they are so now reliant on litter pickers and volunteer groups to do it because they just don't have the manpower. They don't have the money and they don't have the manpower. And if we all downed pickers tomorrow...
Yeah, if you went on strike tomorrow and said no more litter picking, what would happen?
We'd be in a mess.
Yeah.
We'd be in a real mess. We'd be in a mess.
Yeah.
We'd be in a real mess.
I do think, though, that it is an easy excuse for the council to use. We haven't got the money, which does annoy me sometimes, because I think
there's money wasted elsewhere.
I used to work in the NHS, and I can't say I can't see to this patient today because I haven't got time or we haven't got the money. I can't bandage that patient because we haven't got the money. We have to find a way of doing it. And it's called working smarter, changing the way you do things. And when we know better, we do better. And I do think Blackburn with Darwen Council need to work smarter. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying they have enough staff or enough money. But I do see things that I think you could do it a different way. And that, I get asked that a lot. Do you not get frustrated? Council are sort of taking the piss. Do you get that, Jane?
Yeah.
Some people say it, and my dad says it. I mean, my dad's 80, and he'll always remind me when I'm doing stuff and, driving in the car somewhere. He'll say, they can take the piss out of you, Janet. And I do feel that sometimes that they do need to change the way they work, Jane, don't they?
Because there's
I think
it drives me mad.
I think with all the work that you do, both of you, I think they might be relying on the things that you do now, which they shouldn't really
for
be doing.
granted.
Yeah.
That these things are going to be done. And I think if the council need to know that that's how we feel. I don't, like Jane, I have a working relationship with the environment manager and a couple of operatives. Council need to know that that's how we feel. I don't, like Jane, I have a working relationship with the environment manager and a couple of operatives like Gav, and mainly most of the environment department, really, which is good because I can talk to any of them, really, and they'll sort something out for me, which is great. But I do get that impression sometimes that I think you take... And I don't know what I want them to do. I don't want a medal. I'm not saying... You know what I mean? I don't want it to come across like I want a medal. But we are volunteers. We are people with lives, with husbands and dogs and problems and poorly mums and, we all have a life and we are volunteers. And sometimes I feel like saying to the council, get your finger out because I feel like you're taking me for granted. Now that is the naff side of volunteer litter picking. The majority of the time it's very rewarding. And
another part of the good side is you're building up communities, which we haven't had for quite a long time.
Which we have to remember when we feel bad, when we feel down and the cup isn't half full. We do have to remember that at the end of the day, what Jane and I have created is quite amazing. People coming out to group picks who are lonely or who would have been... We've got an elderly lady who... Her husband died and she didn't do much and she saw the litter picking and she fancied it and she thought, I don't know. She didn't want to come because you know what it's like turning up and you don't know anybody. And she came and, I try and involve everybody and have a laugh. And she loves it now. She's there every week, is Maggie. You know, she turns up. She loves it now. She's there every week, is Maggie. You know, she turns up and she's got the Vivis on and her gloves and, you know, and I feel so proud that I did that. And there's probably people like that with you.
I do feel sometimes a bit like a social worker with some people. I do, because I'm exactly the same. I've got to be honest, I mean, two of my closest friends now are people I met through litter picking 18 months
that's
ago.
Such a positive message,
Which
as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So it just shows that there is more to this litter picking thing, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've got some really good friends, and I've got lots of support. And when I do get despondent, and I have done a couple of times, you know, I've had to put a little ranty post out saying like, if you're not interested in joining in, then just bog off.
Go on,
I think you put one on the other week, didn't you? Not long ago.
Yeah. And I lost about 10 people from the group.
Really?
But equally, if they're not involved, put their picture up, and this is what I've done today. And you can see that 220 people have seen it, and only 3 people have bothered to press like, which is all it takes for the person who's done the litter pick to feel appreciated.
Yeah,
it's quite nice just to get, you know.
So this is human psychology. The way that human psychology works, we work off a basis of reward recognition. You know, you give, you take, and just something as simple. And it's what is it?
Yeah,
just a click of a
it's
button.
A click of a button just to make someone feel validated.
Yeah.
And we've just cleaned their street. You know, we've
What more do
cleaned
you
their
want?
way to work.
Yeah, what more do you want?
And they can't be asked to press like. Now, I must admit, when we do group picks every Saturday, and I'll share to keep Darwin tidy, and then I'll put on Darwin then and now. I'm proud to be a Darwiner. And at first, there's another group that I won't put it on now because they did exactly that. There wasn't one like or one comment. And I thought, there's another group that I won't put it on now because they did exactly that. There wasn't one like or one comment. And I thought, right, I'm not sharing anymore. And you can stuff off if you think I'm going cleaning up there as well.
Well, I've just been blocked from the What's On in Tottington page because I commented about something, and we don't share the same politics. The admin for What's On in Tottington and our politics don't see eye to eye. So he blocked me.
How did politics come into litter picking?
It was something else, but our local councillor actually, one of the guys that was in my group right at the very beginning stood against her as for the council position.
Okay, yeah.
So then she took great offence that, you know, so she then assumed that my politics were the same as his politics.
Right.
Which they are, but she doesn't know that. She
shouldn't really be making sort of decisions.
And I have
based on that
questioned
anyway.
her a couple of times. I've been told that she's doing this, she's doing that, she's brilliant, she's wonderful. But I don't see any visibility of it. So I questioned it.
Right, well,
and because I'm a bit gobby in my local community, it was obviously seen.
You have lived down south as well, haven't you?
I did live down south for a long time. Yeah. So does that make me more gobby or something?
Well, I'm not insinuating anything there.
When I started Keep Darwin Tidy, I made a point of, I've gone to Darwin Town Council meetings a lot and things like that, and I think you have a problem with volunteer groups that are highly supported by councillors because the public just don't respond to a councillor, whether it's their own or another. And I think Keep Darwin Tidy works because it's not about a councillor.
Well, I've absolutely tried to keep politics out of it, but I have to say that all the councillors that I have received support from have all been Labour councillors. They're all the ones that have actually helped me out in various things, getting bins in place, we're doing a big litter pick next Sunday, which is in a particular ward, and we've had the councillors have actually been there drumming up support, handing out leaflets, you know, doing all that.
That's great. That's what you want.
Fantastic. And then Jackie's had the same in Ramsbottom. She's had a couple of councillors get involved. What I find with my own councillors is that they tend to like to take all the glory, you know, and it's like...
I don't think councillors find groups like ours that easy.
No.
I think because they are elected members, as I've been told a number of times, when you've got a group that comes along and suddenly starts to 5 new bins on a brand new. And luckily for me, the majority of Darwin Town Council don't do Facebook.
As you've been banned from Darwin.
Don't do Instagram. They don't do Instagram, and they don't do Twitter. So I'm lucky that way that, I'm not going to get their support either way. But I think that's the difficult thing as well. I mean, like we said, there's great things and not so great things, but it's trying to have all these working relationships with different people. People think, oh, Janet Jane, the volunteer litter picker, oh, aren't they lovely? Oh, they brought me this. But when you look at how much we have to coordinate and troubleshoot, it is incredible to try and get working relationships with all these different types of people, like the council, like the councillors, like the schools, to try and get some education, get them on board, get them doing a bit of litter picking. The schools to try and get some education, get them on board, get them doing a bit of litter picking. It is not an easy job. Do you go down the education route, Jane? Do you do much?
We haven't. We have tried. We've been into our local high schools, and but there are 65 primary schools in Bury.
No.
65 primary schools in Bury.
Shine a light.
So it's not possible. And this is what I said right at the very beginning. With the Keep Bury Clean group,
that's a lot, isn't it?
It's about getting groups within the areas. Individual little groups. Individual groups, that sounds a bit wrong, but small groups of people in different areas to do their bit, and therefore perhaps to hit their own primary schools rather than me being expected to go to every single school. I mean, you've been going quite a lot longer than we.
Here in 19 months.
Oh, okay. No, you've not been going that much longer. We were April 2018. We started.
So just after.
Yeah.
And is that how you came across each other, just through your Facebook groups?
Yeah. Jane's name sticks out, but
if you can pronounce it.
I think which is what. And Jane also has a dog. I've always had Roscoe.
Yeah.
My bestie as my profile picture.
Yeah.
My dog's my
Jane has a dog so you always notice that as a dog lover, and it was Jane's surname. But a lot of the groups have taken the Keep Britain Tidy thing and done the Keep Wherever Clean.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like it's a brand, isn't it? It's a brand that people will get and understand. It's a run seal, isn't it? It does what it says on the tin.
I'm actually a Keep Britain Tidy Litter Hero ambassador. So I'm actually part of the Keep Britain Tidy group. But Keep Britain Tidy in itself, it doesn't do what the telly adverts anymore, is there? There used to be.
I was going to mention this. Back in the 80s, Keep Britain Tidy was a massive thing. Yeah. It was all over. There were stickers everywhere. There were adverts everywhere, and you just don't see it anymore.
Yeah, well, you don't see any of those.
They haven't got the money now, have they?
But they haven't got the money.
Charity,
but you don't see any public information films at all, do you, anymore? You don't even see Charlie Don't Play With Matches and...
Or Say No.
Like you said on Facebook the other day, you used to have these pictures with rats coming, on the bins and everything.
Big rats, yeah.
But you don't see any of that anymore. Yeah. Going back to the children, well, I'm assuming it's children or youngsters. I've recently started working for a local council. I'm not going to say which one because this podcast is nothing to do with a local council. I'm not going to say which one because this podcast is nothing to do with I'm not related to with them. Blah blah blah. But since I've started working for the council and since I've started taking my lad up to play football, the car park, I've noticed there's loads of these little tin or aluminium canisters.
Nitrous oxide.
Nitrous oxide. Is it laughing gas?
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's that and energy drinks that I've noticed.
You're looking puzzled about these.
Well, I'm just thinking back to Little Shop of Horrors, where the dentist, who was played by Steve Martin, had this contraption on his back.
Yes, and he
was getting high basically off laughing gas. So that's how I think I know the side thing. So where are they getting it from though? Because obviously they're not dentists. Where are they getting it from?
The little canisters.
You just buy it.
I think it's something to do with soda streams, isn't it?
They're designed for coffee creamers. They're a catering. So what they have though, they have these little gadgets that to pop. I found a few of these. I found thousands of the canisters, but I found a few of the little gadgets that you screw it in, so it pops the seal.
Yeah.
Then you put a balloon over the end, teaching people how to use them now.
Fill your balloon.
You fill your balloon and then you inhale like you would, like we used to do with helium or whatever,
We
Well,
just
it's
like to
just-
say
it's just
the
like a
Lancashire
new-
Hot Pod does not condone such activity
Absolutely
in any
not.
way,
It's,
shape, or
it's just
form.
a newer version of solvent abuse, isn't it?
Oh,
But
yeah,
it is
it is.
absolutely
Kids will find
massive.
anything that'll get them high.
And it's the thing is, my opinion is, if you want to get, you want to screw your brain up, that's fine. Go off, do
Yeah.
it. We all had our thing when we were kids. We all did a bit of whatever, I'm sure. But don't chuck your little canisters on the floor when you're finished.
What are they? Are they stainless steel or aluminium or something?
They're aluminium because we recycle them.
Well, we can't recycle them in Bury.
They're aluminium because we recycle them.
Well, we can't recycle them in Bury
Why?
because they don't recycle them apparently.
Well,
but you can weigh them in.
Yeah, that's what we do.
But you need you need a table full
You
of
need
them
quite a lot
to make it worth your
But
while.
we do, yeah. There are certain areas that have problems, like parks or dodgy backs at nights and things. But we had one at Grainings Wood the other a month ago, maybe, probably a bit more than that. And I get a direct message. I know when I get a direct message from a stranger that starts, "Please help," you know that it's somebody who doesn't have a clue what to do. And they let me know that there's been some, it looks like they've had a party in Grainings Wood. Well, it's a well-known area, so it was like, right, okay then. So I drove over to have a look, and it was a little bit of a walk, and it was incredible. The amount of these little canister merchants don't take them because of the nature of what they are and how they're being used. But there's a man in Blackburn who will take them off you, and then he must weigh them in, and he sends the money to a school in Cambodia. And it's not a lot of money, and it's a bit of effort from a few people. But this is how charities keep themselves going now with this recycling and weighing in. So I counted them. I thought, well, I'll count them just for Facebook. It's a
Might
post,
get you a few likes.
a different post, yeah. So there was 2,500.
Oh, God.
So they're the worst ones we've had. But we do, talking about recycling, we also recycle bottle tops.
Yes,
Milk bottle tops, not flip top ones, just the flat bottles. And we send them to a charity in Scotland, to a blind charity. She weighs them in. Pathfinder train German Shepherds to be guide dogs. One of the only charities that do. So we send up to 5 kgs because you get it free because it's for the blind. And they weigh them in and do that. And now there's TerraCycle, which is the new way. Whether you agree with it or not, we could have a debate for hours about whether TerraCycle's right or wrong. But we send some stuff to TerraCycle that's weighed in, and they give you such a small portion of money. They weigh it in like crisp packets. Yeah. You've got to have 8 kilograms of empty crisp packets. That's a lot.
3,325, I think it was, when Samantha did the last lot from Helmshore Recycling.
Single one.
That'd be a week in our house. My son loves it.
Yeah.
But that was 9k. Samantha, you've met Samantha, haven't you?
Yeah, she sent just in case.
Different charities, and we drop crisp packets and bottle tops and whatever. But you have to have such an enormous amount of them in order to get anything back for them that most people just couldn't be bothered. I mean,
Where'd you keep them? Where'd you keep
That's a storage issue, isn't it?
That's her garage. Her garage is just full of different boxes with different things written on the side.
But the public feel obliged to do this with people's rubbish. The volunteers want a happy ending for that shit. They don't want it all going to landfill. They want it to be used. Maybe that blind lady doesn't get a lot for all those bottle tops. But what's a bit of effort from me and 10 others? We drop them all off at Dolly's Tea Rooms. And she collects them all in a big box, and I send them off. It's not difficult.
There's a programme on TV called The Happy Place. I don't know whether you... Oh, no, The Good Place it's called. I won't go into it in... There's a programme on TV called The Happy Place. I don't know whether you... Oh, no, The Good Place it's called. I won't go into it in detail, but essentially it's about these four people who end up in what they think is the good place, and it isn't actually, it's hell. They are being perpetually tortured for their past... exploits on
misdemeanors.
Yeah, exactly. However, there's a guy in there called Chiddy who he's there because he could never make a decision, and he put everybody else because he couldn't make a decision. But he is there to talk on ethics, and his thing is about ethics. And the big thing about it is he goes, we're all on Earth, and we all make choices as to what our legacy is, what our what are we leaving on this earth. And some people will just lead with me, and then there's other people that will lead with others. Rather than asking the what's in it for me, we'll ask the question what's in it for others. And I think what you've said there just reminds me of that, because we all have a choice. We all can go through life sticking two things up at everything and going, actually I don't care about my impact on other people. But I think having an awareness of your impact on others, but also acknowledging that if you didn't make that choice, because you can make that choice, that you can actually make a big difference, a massive difference. Like just what you two ladies have talked about this evening has made a massive difference in your communities. You've struck up friendships. You have changed the way in which people interact with the community around them, and you can't take that away. And I know, Gav and I hearing you, it's frustrating as hell. It's really annoying when you do the same thing over and over again. But unfortunately, that is the world that we live in. There are people who just don't ask the what's in it for others. They're all about the me, and then there's others that do think about the environment they live in.
It is, and I certainly don't want it to sound negative, but that is the sad fact of litter picking. It's great, all the good things that I get from litter picking, the community I get from litter picking, the community, the colleagues, the friends, the going to awards and things like that. That's lovely, and I love that. But it is a very, very frustrating, depressing hobby.
And on that cheerful note, no, listen, we hear you. I mean, it's a never-ending battle.
Something needs to be done, because you can't. There's just no. We can't see the end of it.
No,
we can't see where it's going to finish. Something needs to be done.
So here's one for you, Gav. So we talked about politics. We've talked about awareness. We've talked about school children. We've talked about changing behaviour and the societal shift that actually make people care. So the one thing I think that has been in the news recently is the Swedish schoolgirl Greta Thunberg, who is known as a climate activist. A genuine question here. I haven't seen a lot of it on the sorts of things that she's done. I know she spoke at the UN, and she's getting a lot of media. Do you think she is doing good work? Do you think she is doing important work? Do you think she's raising awareness, or do you think there is other things at play there? So I'm going to come to Jane first.
Okay.
What's your take on it?
I think she's doing great things in that she is raising awareness. I see quite a lot of backlash from people who are saying, well, she's blaming the older generation for this. When, and you see these stuff things, these memes and things of people going to war, and you're saying, well, you can't be blaming that elder generation. They're the people who saved, who fought for a free world and whatever. I think the problem is that people see her. I think she is raising awareness. I think the problem is that it looks like she's blaming people who are not actually to blame. The people who are to blame are the people in the 80s and 90s, like myself, when I lived in. Looks like she's blaming people who are not actually to blame. The people who are to blame are the people in the 80s and 90s, like myself, when I lived in London, who would go and buy the Starbucks on the way to work and, use that non-recyclable cup, who suddenly decided that you had to drink water out of plastic bottles instead of just drinking it out of the tap.
That's just weird. Where did that even come from?
I know, but exactly. Where did that come from? All right, in London, the water tastes like shit. It really does. But you get a water filter. Yeah. You get a jug, and you put your water into.
Well, as you say, somebody used to say Evian water. You spell Evian backwards. It's naive.
Yeah,
so it's like you're selling me water.
You're selling me water. We live in Lancashire.
Probably
There's
one of the wettest countries in the world.
The water is everywhere. And so...
And you're still buying it.
And you're still buying it. And you're still buying it. But in packets of 6 on 8, 3 months, 4 months, and I fill it up every day.
I've got a 2-litre one for work. I've had it for about 6 months, and it looks.
You can get the chill bottles now.
I hide it from people when I'm drinking because it just looks awful.
Starting to get tatty, but I fill it up every day, and eventually, when it wears out, I will bin it. And I've just because I'm
Or you'll recycle it.
Well, yeah, obviously, but. I just found, literally this afternoon, I was clearing the cupboard out and I found my old metal canister that I used to have on my bike. I used to cycle everywhere when I was in London, mainly because it was faster than going anywhere else. And it used one of the ones that, slots into your A-frame.
Thing,
yeah. So I was like, hey, I found my metal canister. I don't have to go and buy one. I can use my metal canister on a daily basis. I think she's doing good things. I think she's raising awareness. I think sometimes she is perhaps focusing her attention at the wrong people and she's blaming the wrong people. But equally, it is the politicians and the businessmen and the big business that awareness. I think sometimes she is perhaps focusing her attention at the wrong people and she's blaming the wrong people. But equally, it is the politicians and the businessmen and the big business that reaped the rewards from all that manufacturing. They made all that they allowed it to happen, and they didn't foresee the problem it was going to make for the future generations.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Joanna, what's your take?
I think Greta is it's a shame, really, isn't it? Because I think her message is good. Her message, I do wonder how she, at her young age, has experienced all this and knows all this. So therefore has probably been fed a flavoured view from somebody or others. So has experienced all this and knows all this. So therefore has probably been fed a flavoured view from somebody or others. So you do wonder, but I think she's just, whoever has given her advice, she's just put it in she's coming across wrong, isn't she? She's not coming across, she's coming across aggressive, and I know her look with her eyes as
she suffers from autism as well, which I think is a contributing factor to how she communicates.
And I think that's demonised her, really. She's not got these, she's not,
demonise is an interesting term, because I just looked on Google now and, the first thing is from The Sun. Outrage as effigy of teen climate change activist Greta Thunberg is found hanging from a bridge in Rome.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. There's no need for that.
At the end of the day, she is still a child. I think that people are pulling her strings and they're using her to do things. And now everyone's getting angry at her, because I've posted things about her on social media. But I'm not aiming things at her. I don't post anything serious. I just post things to stir it with people. I don't take Facebook serious at all. But I think people are pulling her strings and they're using her, and they're putting her in the public eye, and it's a dangerous place to be nowadays. They shouldn't be doing that, because it's not. Yeah. I don't even think it's her. I don't even think it's her mind that she's speaking at all.
No.
I know she might be upset about things, but I think people are putting things into her head because she's young, and it's obviously causing an uproar, so it's working. But I think
certainly when she first started, when she was 14 or whatever, a couple of years ago, when she first was knocking about, she didn't come across as aggressive, and she didn't have the same words. Now she's 16, and
she knows now that she's got an audience.
She articulates herself a bit better as well. She's not an overnight thing. She has been at herself a bit better as well. She's not an overnight thing. She has been at this for quite a while.
But on the other hand, there's the other guy called, is it Boyan Slat? He's
it's the ocean dude.
Yeah, when he was 16, he invented something that is now being used all over the world to clean up the oceans, to clean plastic out of all the oceans.
Is that the one with the?
I did see that one. Yeah.
Is that the one with the big sort of barrier thing? With
sucks up thingy, and so
he's done a really good podcast with Joe Rogan there.
But at the end of the day, is any publicity bad publicity?
Well,
for such a cause like that, climate change. Let's hope that the fact that it's constantly the first article, the front page of the news, let's hope that even though it's aimed at her. Let's hope she's not affected by it. And she has very good support. And let's hope that any news is good for the climate change.
Well, listen, I think that's a good point to sort of halt things there. And I think this is a conversation that we've talked about sort of local communities. We've gone local, we've gone global. Hopefully you've enjoyed listening today. But if you're sat there thinking, actually I can do something, to help and support.
I can have a shit hobby.
just
I can have a shit depressing hobby.
Great, yeah.
Getting angry at people and that.
If you want to go and hang out with Janet on a weekend, then so Janet, how can people find this person that is glass half full all the time?
Janet Pierce is admin of Keep Darwin Tidy. So we have a Facebook page, we're on Instagram, and we're on Twitter. Type it in, and I'm pretty sure my name or the dog's name will jump out at you.
Jane?
We're the same. Keep Very Clean on Facebook. We have an Insta. We have a Twitter feed, neither of which I manage because I'm absolutely hopeless at that type of thing. We also have an email mailing list. So we have an Insta. We have a Twitter feed, neither of which I manage because I'm absolutely hopeless at that type of thing. We also have an email mailing list. So if people don't use Facebook, they can get in touch with us and we can then mail information to them when we're doing litter picks and stuff. And Tottington Litter Pick is the same, but obviously that's a very, very localised group.
Come and join us.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
you too can be picking up other people's shit up for fun.
So the moral of this podcast is pick your shit up.
Don't drop it.
Let's share this as best we can. Please share it in your groups. We'll share it as far and wide as we can.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Raising awareness.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, wicked. So thank you, Hot Podders, for listening. As ever, you can subscribe on Podbean, Spotify and iTunes.
Facebook, and really, honestly, we are planning on doing YouTube at some point. So
See, I sprung the 360 video on you by accident, really. This is something that concerns everybody in the world that we live in, the streets that we walk in. So
be a womble.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Get out, help out. Next time you even think about dropping a piece of litter, I'm going to get Janet and Jane on you. So be careful.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye, bye-bye.
Rolling down the street with my crew, just flinging it. Throwing rubbish on the ground, can't be bothered binning it. Ask me how you done, I tell you, I'm just beginning it. If there was a competition of littering, I'd be winning it. Flick my ciggy butts on the ground, empty my pockets, tip my litter out. Chip packets and burger wrappers, drink lid straws and all sorts of plastic.
Oh, no.
I don't care about the little bits of rubbish. Flick it on the ground cause I'm lazy and I'm sluggish. Unzip my jacket, let the wind blow it away. I don't even make it look like it's a mistake. One day then it's gone the next. We don't think about where it goes, we couldn't care less. It's not worth our trouble, not worth our stress.
Every bit of litter really matters. It won't just go away. Every bit of litter really matters. It builds up every day. Every bit of litter really matters. It's time to break this chain. Everybody really, really matters. We can all make a change.
What's the matter here?
Matter at a place. Matter that matters for the entire human race. You kids don't see what you're leaving behind. Here's a little tale to open your eyes.
It's the sad, sad story of the little fish about litter that was aimed at the bin but missed. Swept down the drain,
Into the sea.
a little gift to fishy from the big city. We know that you know when it leaves your hand, it doesn't just stay right here where it lands.
The very same trash dropped here on the streets is the last little thing that the little fish greets.
We could tell this sad story day after day,
But yous all know it needn't be this way.
you can bin your plastic bag, your litter, right?
Let the little fish live to take another bite.
Every bit of litter really matters. It won't just go away. Every bit of litter really matters. It builds up every day. Every bit of litter really matters. It's time to break this chain. Everybody really, really matters. We can all make a change.
Okay, I get the the topic. I like the way you rock it. You're telling me the problem, it's me that needs to stop it. It's washing down the gutter every time I drop it. My plastic is a weapon and the fish are gonna cop it. I never thought about it quite like that before, but now it seems like something that I can't ignore. I get the picture, it's clear, now there's no confusion. Billions of tons of plastic pollution. I'm coming with ya, me and my crew, no need to doubt it. Now that we understand, we can do something about it. It's good we've all come together to find a solution. It's definitely about time for us cool. I like the way you rap about it. Now that I'm on your side, it's time to get better at it. I'm gonna clean my act up, see what I mean? My team will be squeaky clean.
Every bit of litter really matters. It won't just go away. Every bit of litter really matters. It builds up every day. Every bit of litter really matters. It's time to break this chain. Everybody really, really matters. We can all make a change.